To ask how long it would take to leave the universe is to begin with a sentence that sounds almost childishly clear. The words appear to stand in a neat row. There is the universe, vast but singular. There is the act of leaving, familiar from doors, coastlines, frontiers, and horizons. There is time, the one instrument by which human beings have always tried to measure the cost of distance. Put those pieces together, and the mind imagines a journey grand enough to satisfy even its oldest appetite for escape. Keep going long enough, fly far enough, endure enough years. At some final limit, surely, there must come a moment when the traveler looks back and says, "There, behind me, is everything." The trouble is that the universe does not seem to honor that grammar. The more one studies the structure of the cosmos, the more the sentence begins to fail from within. The universe is not known to have an edge in the ordinary sense. The part we can observe is not the whole in any simple way. Distance is tangled with time, and time is tangled with expansion, and expansion changes the meaning of remoteness itself. Even before the journey has properly begun, the traveler discovers that the road may not lead toward a border at all. It may lead only toward larger and larger lessons in how badly terrestrial instinct handles cosmic reality. That is what gives the question its strange beauty. It begins as spectacle and becomes something deeper, almost severe. You want to know how long escape would take, and instead the universe starts teaching you what kind of place it is. It humbles the planet first, then the solar system, then the galaxy, then the visible heavens themselves. At each stage, the traveler expects scale and receives something more unsettling. The scale is real, but it is never just scale. It is geometry, causality, redshift, expansion, horizon, and the recurring suspicion that the thing imagined in the question may not correspond to a destination that physics allows at all. The journey begins in the one place that still encourages false confidence, Earth. From here, leaving feels understandable. A rocket rises, the atmosphere thins, clouds drop away, and the blue world rounds into a sphere hanging in black. It is a sublime transition, but still a local one. Human beings tend to overvalue it because our bodies evolved beneath air and weather, and anything beyond those conditions feels metaphysically large. Yet in the arithmetic of the cosmos, departing Earth is almost laughably modest. It is the smallest possible rehearsal for a much larger failure of intuition. The same remains true when imagination expands to include the moon, the planets, and the outer reaches of our own star's dominion. The solar system is enormous by human standards, already sufficient to crush any naive sense of travel. Yet it is still only a local arrangement, a village around one ordinary sun. The asteroid belt, the gas giants, the Kuiper belt, the deep outer darkness where small frozen objects drift under faint sunlight, all of this still belongs to the first circle. To leave Earth is not to leave the universe. It is not even to leave the neighborhood. It is only to climb high enough that the neighborhood begins to reveal its shape. This is the first stage of the rising tension. The traveler thinks departure has already happened because the Earth is behind them. But the universe answers with proportion. Light itself takes more than 8 minutes to bridge the gap between the sun and Earth. It takes hours to reach the outer planets. Spacecraft moving at speeds that once sounded heroic can still spend years crossing distances that remain, cosmically speaking, almost domestic. The universe does not mock human travel. It simply absorbs it without effort. The Earth was never the edge of anything except our own original comfort. Once the solar system is behind you in thought, the next natural milestone is the Milky Way. At first, the galaxy seems like a larger room, immense but still traversable with enough power and enough patience. This is another seduction. The Milky Way is not merely a bigger version of the solar system. It is a structure so large that local measures of distance begin to lose moral force. It spans roughly 100,000 light-years across its main stellar disk. Even the faint halo beyond that, where sparse stars and dark matter extend the galaxy's deeper body, stretches the idea of belonging far beyond what any traveler could directly inhabit as one lived whole. A craft moving at the speed of light, which no massive craft can do, would still require longer than all of recorded human history many times over to cross the galaxy. A craft moving at less than that would turn the journey into a matter not of lives, but of epochs. Even if relativity shortened the subjective experience for those inside, the larger historical cost would remain. Generations pass, cultures mutate, meanings shift. The launch world might become myth before the ship reaches the halfway point. To leave the galaxy is already to enter an arena where the traveler must accept that the scale of motion is no longer compatible with the scale of ordinary civilization. This matters because the galaxy is often treated as the true threshold of cosmic travel. Beyond it, people assume space opens. Yet the Milky Way is still only one city in a country of cities. To escape it is not to approach the edge of the universe. It is only to become aware, with some embarrassment, that galaxies themselves are local phenomena inside a much larger architecture. The emotional effect is severe. One expects freedom and receives another hierarchy. Intergalactic space feels in imagination like the proper setting for final escape. It is dark enough, empty enough, and stripped enough of familiar structure to flatter the fantasy. Leave the stars behind, leave the spiral arms behind, leave the gas and dust and old mythic loyalties of one galaxy behind. Cross the black. Surely now one is moving toward the true outskirts of everything. But here again, the universe refuses the old grammar. Between galaxies there is no comforting density, no planetary romance, no local sky rich enough to feel like a roof. There is darkness and sparse matter, and the relic glow of early cosmic fire, and everywhere the distant presence of other galaxies suspended across almost intolerable reaches. Yet this emptiness is not the prelude to an exterior. It is part of the interior on its largest ordinary scale. The cosmic web stretches through it, linking galaxies and clusters into filaments and nodes of matter, with great voids between them. Even the blackness is structured. Even the apparent nothing belongs to a design larger than human language first expects, and so the traveler receives another wound to intuition. Intergalactic space is not the road out. It is a deeper chamber of the house. The farther one moves into it, the more the universe reveals that every supposed threshold is only a threshold into a wider interior. This is the rhythm of the question. Every act of leaving becomes an act of discovering how much more remains inside. At this point, a new idea enters, one that changes the meaning of distance completely. The universe is not simply large. The universe is old, and the oldness of the universe is entangled with light. We do not see remote objects where they are now in any immediate sense. We see them as their light once was when it began the long crossing toward us. To look far is to look back. This is not metaphor. It is the practical condition of astronomy. A nearby planet can be seen almost as it is. The sun is seen 8 minutes in the past. A distant star may be seen years in the past. Another galaxy may be seen millions or billions of years in the past. The deepest observable regions of the cosmos are therefore not merely distant places. They are older chapters of cosmic history entering the eye late. The traveler who wants to leave the universe must confront this before they can go any further. Space is not simply extension. It is extension braided into time. The philosophical implication arrives almost immediately. When you say you want to go farther, what exactly do you mean? Farther through space, farther back through visible history, farther into regions whose present state can only be guessed because the light arriving now began its journey before the Earth existed in anything like its current form. The universe begins to feel less like a place one traverses and more like a deep archive whose shelves are separated by light years instead of aisles. This is where the observable universe enters the story and complicates it almost beyond common language. The observable universe is often described as a sphere around us, and that description is useful so long as one remembers what the sphere means. It is not a shell in space, It is the region from which light or other signals have had time to reach us since the early universe became transparent enough for radiation to travel freely. It is a horizon of access, not a wall. That distinction is absolutely central. If the universe is around 13.8 billion years old, then naive intuition expects the visible radius to be about 13.8 billion light years. But space has expanded while the light traveled. The galaxies whose ancient light we now receive are no longer sitting where they were when that light left. The observable radius, in present-day distance, is therefore much larger, around 46 billion light years. Already the mind begins to stagger, because one thought light had given an honest measure, and now even light turns out to require translation through expanding geometry. The tension of the script intensifies here because the old travel question starts to fracture. How do you leave a region defined not by a fixed physical edge, but by the history of light, the age of the universe, and the expansion of space itself? The traveler is no longer driving toward a fence. The traveler is trying to outrun a relationship between time and visibility. That is a much stranger undertaking. Let us say for the sake of drama that the ship is unimaginably fast. Let us be generous almost to the point of fantasy. Perhaps it can travel at 90% of the speed of light. Perhaps at 99%. Perhaps its crew can endure acceleration that would annihilate ordinary bodies. At first, this seems like salvation. Faster speed means shorter travel. Greater speed means the horizon yields. Such assumptions work well on roads, seas, and within solar systems. They do not survive cosmology untouched. Relativity does offer one extraordinary gift. To the travelers themselves, enough speed compresses the experience of time. Distances contract in their frame. Voyages that would seem immense to outside observers may feel shorter within the ship. This creates one of the most intoxicating features of Einsteinian travel. The possibility that subjective experience might cross spans that would otherwise outlive civilizations. Yet this is only one part of the story. The universe remains under no obligation to become traversable merely because your clock has changed. The deeper difficulty is that nothing with mass can be accelerated to the speed of light, and the energy required to approach that limit rises with merciless severity. More importantly, even a ship moving at extraordinary speed is still traveling through a universe whose large-scale geometry changes while it moves. Some destinations are not simply far. They are receding because the fabric of space itself is expanding. The traveler may shorten their own experience of the journey and still fail to overcome the larger dynamic structure into which the journey is embedded. Velocity helps. It does not necessarily save. This is the point where many intuitions break at once. How can anything recede faster than light if relativity sets light as the upper limit? The answer lies in the difference between motion through space and the expansion of space. A galaxy does not need to race locally through its neighborhood faster than light for the distance between it and another galaxy to increase at an effective rate greater than light. The metric itself expands. The fabric stretches. The separation grows without requiring a local object to violate Einstein's rule in its own immediate frame. This is one of those ideas that feels like a loophole and is in fact a deeper description of reality. The universe is not a stage on which matter moves while the stage remains fixed. The stage itself changes scale, and because it changes scale, there are galaxies whose recession relative to us is not something even the fastest ship can casually nullify. One can imagine chasing them for ages while the map lengthens ahead. The philosophical consequence is quiet and devastating. There are forms of separation in the cosmos that are not matters of insufficient courage or insufficient engineering. They arise from the way reality is built. The human longing to say, "Go faster" encounters here one of its first impersonal refusals. Then comes the idea of the cosmic event horizon, and with it the script acquires its real menace. The observable universe describes what has been visible to us so far. The event horizon describes something harsher, the limit beyond which events can never influence us in the future, even in principle, because accelerated expansion keeps those regions forever beyond causal exchange. This is not simply remoteness, it is exile written into geometry. A galaxy may still be visible if the light it emitted long ago is only now arriving, yet at the same time, it may already lie beyond the event horizon, in the sense that no signal sent today from there could ever reach us, and no signal sent by us today could ever arrive there. We are seeing the past of a region that is already gone from the future of relationship. This is one of the most haunting facts in cosmology. The sky contains ghosts of possibility, places whose old light still visits us even after the conversation itself has been closed. Now the traveler's ambition begins to collapse into something almost tragic. It was one thing to imagine faraway galaxies as difficult destinations. It is another to understand that some are no longer destinations in any ordinary causal sense. They remain visible relics of a universe more connected than the future will be. To leave the universe in the old heroic mode, one would first need the universe to remain relational in the way the question assumes. But the event horizon shows that relation itself can expire. At this stage, the question "leave for where" can no longer be postponed. If you somehow crossed beyond Earth's current observable horizon, you would still be in the universe. You would simply inhabit a different observational situation. New regions might become visible to you that Earth could not see, while regions Earth once saw might slip behind your own new horizon. The universe does not grant one universal balcony from which all can be surveyed at once. Observation belongs to world lines. Horizons travel with the observer. This is profoundly counterintuitive because the human mind likes a fixed outside from which the whole can be viewed. Cosmology gives no easy support to that fantasy. There is no currently known physical platform outside space-time from which the universe can be admired as one bounded object in the old cinematic sense. The further you go, the more you remain centered in your own sphere of access. The edge of one observer's visible world is not the final edge of reality. It is only the edge of that observer's causal past and future. So the traveler discovers another philosophical wound. Even if you cross what looked like the edge from here, you do not graduate into transcendence. You simply acquire another horizon. Escape turns out to be local. The universe keeps you inside by changing the meaning of outside faster than your metaphors can stabilize it. The question becomes stranger still when one asks about the total universe rather than the observable part. Physics does not presently provide a confirmed map of the whole. The total cosmos may be finite or effectively infinite. It may be curved in ways that allow finitude without boundary. It may extend vastly beyond the observable region, perhaps by amounts so large that the word "beyond" begins to sound embarrassed by its own smallness. If the total universe is spatially infinite, then leaving it is not merely difficult. It is conceptually broken. There is no outer rim to find, no final shell, no cosmic coast. You can move indefinitely and still remain inside what has no total edge. If the universe is finite but unbounded, the problem remains almost as severe. A two-dimensional being living on the surface of a sphere can travel forever without encountering an edge, because the surface is finite yet borderless. If space-time behaves analogously on larger scales, then a straight journey does not end in exit. It only continues within curved totality. This is one of the moments in the story where philosophy must return, because the scientific conclusion lands with almost existential force. Some desires are built from earthly precedent and fail when applied to reality at larger scales. Wanting to leave the universe may be like wanting to step north of north. The sentence has drama. It does not necessarily have a destination. Suppose, however, that we refuse to surrender the narrative so quickly. Suppose we continue traveling anyway, because the human imagination would continue. We leave Earth, we leave the solar system, we leave the Milky Way. We cross the local group, that modest community of galaxies gravitationally related across millions of light years. We press outward toward richer clusters, toward filaments laced with thousands of galaxies, toward the dimmer architecture of the cosmic web. The ship moves for ages. Civilizations rise and vanish inside it. Generations are born who regard intergalactic darkness the way sailors once regarded sea. At first, the map still rewards movement. New galaxies drift into better view. Clusters become neighborhoods. The cosmic background grows stranger. Ancient light thickens around the traveler with meanings no first-generation astronomer could have emotionally carried. The scale alone would be enough to produce awe. Yet with every gain comes another revelation. The universe is not growing more edge-like. It is only becoming more internally complex. This is the cinematic heart of the journey. The traveler expects climax and receives recursion. Every outer region is another interior. Every triumph of speed only reveals a wider chamber in the same immeasurable house. The script's tension, therefore, does not come from nearing a border. It comes from realizing, stage by stage, that the border may be the wrong genre of expectation. Then there are the earliest galaxies, the objects whose light began when the cosmos was still young. Telescopes like Hubble and Webb have already shown us that some of the universe's first structures formed earlier and with more complexity than older models comfortably expected. Their light reaches us redshifted, stretched by expansion into wavelengths that say as much about the history of the space between as about the source itself. If a traveler aimed for those ancient visible depths, they would be doing something almost theological in tone. They would not merely be going far. They would be moving toward the young universe through the long indirectness of light. Yet even here, the road turns against ordinary drama. By the time you cross toward such remote regions, you do not arrive at the early universe in the historical sense. You arrive at whatever those regions have become now, assuming they remain reachable at all. The light in your telescope and the place before your ship cease to agree as one simple object. That split is vital. It means the universe can display a past you can never inhabit directly again. You may see ancient light without being able to re-enter ancient cosmic conditions. Vision and arrival diverge. This is one of the deepest reasons the notion of leaving the universe becomes unstable. The cosmos withholds simultaneity on the scales where your metaphors most need it. What if one abandons travel and instead imagines endurance? If you cannot leave the universe by crossing its boundary, can you outlast its visible richness? Can you stay until the cosmos itself changes enough that inside begins to feel like another word for emptiness? This thought brings the script into its final act, where distance yields to time and time becomes the harsher medium. Current cosmology suggests a future in which accelerated expansion continues. Distant galaxies slip beyond detectability. Local groups become isolated archipelagos of matter surrounded by ever-growing darkness. Star formation declines. Ordinary luminous structure thins. The era in which the sky is crowded with other galaxies may be temporary in the deepest sense. Future observers, living in bound systems long after us, may inherit a universe whose great external richness is no longer visible at all. That possibility carries a melancholy unlike any earlier stage of the journey. You set out hoping to leave the universe, and instead you discover that the universe may one day leave much of itself behind. The horizon contracts in significance. The map gets poorer. To be born late enough in cosmic history could mean living in a place where evidence of the wider universe has largely vanished from the sky. The ancient astronomers of that era, if any survive, may need archives from long-dead ages just to know how much was once visible. This makes the idea of outside more emotionally understandable, even if physics continues to resist it. Human beings crave outsides because outsides promise perspective. A room can be comprehended from its doorway. A city can be mapped from the hills beyond. A planet becomes knowable in a new way once orbit is reached. A galaxy becomes a visible structure once enough distance separates observer from arm and bulge. We keep expecting the same moral pattern to continue. Reach beyond, and the whole will reveal itself. Cosmology answers with increasing difficulty at each stage, and finally with refusal. That refusal can be read in two moods. One mood calls it imprisonment. There is no outside. There is no final shore. The universe is the total enclosure, and all the dream of escape can do is bruise itself against abstraction. The other mood calls it depth. What we inhabit is not a room in a larger house. It is the whole field in which houses, rooms, horizons, and the wish for departure first acquired meaning. These moods are opposed emotionally and perhaps inseparable intellectually. The cosmos permits both readings because it grants us vastness without granting us an obvious beyond. This is why the question never fully loses its power. Even once physics has corrected its assumptions, the emotional charge remains. To ask how long it takes to leave the universe is still to ask whether reality contains a place from which totality becomes scenery. Current knowledge suggests that if such a place exists, it is not one reachable by ordinary travel within space-time. The longing survives. The path does not. It is worth pausing here to notice how this journey has changed the traveler. At the start, the mind wanted an answer in years, in speed, in fuel, in engine design, in some colossal but still familiar arithmetic. By now, the traveler has been taught something more unsettling. The problem is not mainly how much time the ship requires. The problem is that the universe changes the meaning of leaving every time the traveler thinks it has been properly defined. Earth was too small. The solar system was too local. The galaxy was too provincial. Intergalactic space was too interior. The observable universe was not a wall. The event horizon was not a destination, but a limit of relation. The total universe may have no edge. The far future of the cosmos does not produce an outside either, only a dimming within. At each stage, the old verb, leave, survives linguistically and dies physically. This is one of the most valuable patterns in all of science. Curiosity often begins by asking a question that reality cannot answer in the terms requested. The reward of asking well is not humiliation for its own sake. It is transformation. One starts by wanting a timetable for escape and ends by understanding that the grammar of escape itself may not scale to the cosmos. There is another layer of the problem that only appears once the traveler has already accepted most of the humiliations. Even if one gives up on the childish hope of a visible wall somewhere ahead, a new temptation appears. Perhaps the universe does not have an edge in the simple geographical sense, but perhaps it still has a deeper boundary built into its early history, some ancient threshold hidden in the oldest light, some frontier buried beneath the cosmic background itself. The question then changes shape again. One no longer asks how long it takes to reach the farthest galaxy. One asks whether one can push beyond the earliest visible surface of the universe, beyond the oldest radiation that still reaches us, beyond the last layer from which the cosmos became transparent. This is where the cosmic microwave background enters the story with almost ceremonial force. It is the oldest light we can see directly, released when the early universe cooled enough for photons to travel freely rather than ricochet endlessly through an opaque plasma. Before that epoch, the universe was not dark in the ordinary sense. It was bright beyond measure, yet opaque. Light existed, but it could not carry a clean image across distance. The early cosmos was therefore hidden, not because it lacked illumination, but because it had too much matter and too much heat entangled together for transparency to emerge. That fact matters because it gives the visible universe a second kind of horizon. There is not only the horizon of enormous distance and late-arriving light, there is also a horizon of primordial opacity. When we look back far enough, we do not continue seeing ever earlier structures with perfect continuity. We reach a surface beyond which ordinary electromagnetic sight no longer goes. The traveler who dreams of leaving the universe might think this offers a new target, some ancient veil to cross. Yet even this is not an edge of existence. It is only the oldest visible chapter in a history that began under conditions our eyes, and even our telescopes, cannot read directly by light alone. Imagine then a vessel absurdly advanced, not merely in speed but in endurance. It does not race toward a distant galaxy only. It aims toward the oldest light itself, toward that relic glow that fills all directions as a memory of the universe when it was young, dense, and only just becoming transparent. The journey would feel less like navigation and more like pilgrimage. Every year of travel would carry the ship toward a sky increasingly dominated by ancient red-shifted history, toward a cosmos where looking outward becomes almost indistinguishable from looking downward into buried time. Yet here again, the universe withholds the sort of climax the human heart expects. Reaching regions associated with ancient light does not deliver the traveler into the beginning of the universe as one might walk into an older district of a city. The background radiation is not a wall of old fire still suspended intact at some reachable distance ahead. It is a relic field saturating the observable cosmos, seen in every direction because it belongs to an era through which our own region of space-time also passed. One cannot simply drive toward it and then beyond it like a ship crossing fog. The early universe is not located over there. It is the past condition of the space-time within which the traveler already exists. This is one of the grandest and strangest reversals in the entire story. The traveler keeps seeking an outside and repeatedly finds history instead. The oldest visible light is not a border post. It is a fossil of the same universe already underfoot. To move through space is not to move toward a place where the young cosmos is waiting intact for re-entry. It is to remain inside a mature universe that carries its early self as radiation, expansion, and memory, rather than as a recoverable territory. A more desperate imagination might then reach for geometry of a different kind. If ordinary travel cannot secure an exit, perhaps exotic structures could. Wormholes have long occupied that role in speculative thought. They seem to promise a kind of rescue from cosmic scale, a way of connecting distant regions without crossing every intervening light year in the ordinary way. If one mouth opened in our region and another in some vastly remote domain, perhaps the traveler could bypass the slow humiliations of expansion, distance, and causality as commonly lived. But here, too, sobriety returns. Wormholes belong to the mathematics of general relativity more readily than to the toolbox of demonstrated engineering. Even as theoretical constructs, traversable wormholes appear to demand conditions that remain deeply uncertain, perhaps impossible under known physics, including forms of exotic energy or stress that no civilization has ever mastered. More importantly, even if such structures existed, they would not automatically solve the philosophical problem. A wormhole between two regions of space-time still connects parts of the universe. It does not give obvious access to an outside of the universe. It shortens a route within totality. It does not prove that totality itself is a room with a back door. This is important because speculative escape routes often preserve the old fantasy by changing machinery rather than questioning the destination. Faster engines, wormholes, warp bubbles, all of these ideas respond to the pain of distance. The deeper difficulty in this script is not merely distance. It is that outside the universe may not name a reachable location, even if the route inside the universe becomes fantastically more efficient. The imagination keeps offering engineering answers to a problem that may in fact be topological, ontological, or simply ill-posed. The same holds for the idea of inflationary escape or multiversal leakage, those more extravagant dreams in which our visible cosmos is only one local bubble within a larger structure. Modern cosmology does entertain serious speculative frameworks in which inflation could produce many regions, many bubble universes, or other vast structures beyond our own observable domain. This is part of what makes the subject so intoxicating. It seems to suggest that perhaps outside has meaning after all, not outside existence entirely, but outside our own cosmic patch. Yet such frameworks do not immediately restore the traveler's hope. A larger, multiversal landscape, if it exists, is not thereby made navigable. A fish hearing rumors of oceans beyond its sea has not therefore learned how to breach the laws of water. The mechanisms that might generate such broader structures may lie so early in cosmic history, so far beyond accessible energy scales, or so fundamentally detached from ordinary travel through space-time that the existence of a larger metastructure changes almost nothing for the ship's practical prospects. This is where tension becomes almost cruelly elegant. Every new layer of theory seems to reopen wonder while leaving travel behind. The human mind wants the largest picture to bring the largest road. Physics repeatedly offers the first without promising the second. The traveler may gain a deeper cosmos and lose the dream of reaching beyond it in the same breath. Knowledge expands. Access does not necessarily follow. There is a different kind of clue hidden inside the very possibility that the universe might be finite without having any border. This is one of the hardest ideas to make emotionally real, because finite things in daily life nearly always come with edges. A table ends. A book ends. A road ends. The human nervous system therefore keeps expecting that if totality is finite, there must be some final place where continuity gives way to absence. Curved space undermines that expectation entirely. The surface of a sphere offers the classic analogy because it is familiar and mercilessly effective. A creature confined to that surface could measure finite area, travel forever, and never find a brink. Every direction remains legal. Every straight path eventually becomes a loop. There is no exit built into the geometry itself. If the large-scale universe behaves analogously in higher dimensional ways, then how long would it take to leave becomes the wrong question from the start. The traveler does not need more endurance. The traveler needs a different kind of universe. This matters philosophically because it reveals how much our sense of possibility depends on inherited geometry. Many impossible questions feel impossible only after one notices that the picture held in the mind was quietly Euclidean, quietly flat, quietly terrestrial. The universe may be finite in a way that withholds the very feature escape requires. In that case, the tragedy is not that one cannot go far enough. One can go forever and still remain in the same kind of totality, circling existence without ever reaching an edge because no edge belongs to the structure. Now the emotional stakes shift from movement to isolation. Suppose a civilization survives for billions of years. It does not leave the universe, but it persists within it long enough to witness the consequences of accelerated expansion. One by one, the galaxies beyond the local gravitationally bound neighborhood slip away from observability. The rich external sky of the current era thins. Distant clusters fade. The background cosmological story becomes harder to reconstruct from direct observation. The future observer does not face an edge. The future observer faces a slow impoverishment of visible context. This may be one of the most dramatic scenes the script can contain. Imagine a culture born in the remote future studying a sky in which the local group of galaxies remains, but the wider cosmic web has gone dark beyond practical view. Its astronomers would live in an impoverished observatory compared with ours, unless ancient archives survive to testify to what was once visible. Their universe would feel smaller, not because reality had shrunk, but because access to evidence had withered. They would still be inside the same totality. Its grandeur would simply have receded beyond their horizon of experience. Here, the question of leaving the universe becomes almost heartbreaking. The traveler never finds a way out. Meanwhile, the visible richness of the universe begins, over unimaginable time, to withdraw. The cosmos does not merely refuse escape. It slowly hides more of itself from those who remain. In that light, the present age appears strangely privileged. We live early enough to see much that later observers may only infer. The dream of departure gives way to a subtler responsibility, to understand as much as possible while the sky is still generous. This idea of cosmic generosity deserves more weight than it usually receives. Human beings often imagine themselves as latecomers, arriving after the glory of the universe has already happened. On the scales that govern stars and galaxies, however, we may in some respects be early. There are still many visible galaxies. The cosmic microwave background is still accessible. Cosmological expansion can still be measured directly through the broad architecture of the sky. We inhabit an era in which the universe remains, observationally speaking, unusually eloquent. A future civilization may have better instruments, deeper mathematics, and more durable memory. yet it may inherit a cosmos less willing to display its own scale. That reversal changes the emotional meaning of the whole script. The desire to leave the universe often assumes that the present sky is only a preliminary stage, that deeper adventure always lies farther out. Physics suggests a subtler truth. Some of the most important cosmic revelations are already here in the view we possess now, and they may not remain equally available forever. So the question begins to turn inward. Perhaps the real challenge is not how long it takes to leave the universe. Perhaps the real challenge is whether one can learn enough about the universe from within the brief historical window in which it still reveals so much of itself. In that sense, the urge to escape totality may conceal a failure to recognize the rarity of having totality still partially on display. Still, the human heart continues to ask for an exterior because exteriority promises closure. It promises that reality can finally be seen whole, bounded, finite, and therefore somehow mastered by perspective. The universe resists this repeatedly, and that resistance itself becomes one of the story's great philosophical conclusions. There may be holes that cannot be stepped outside because stepping outside is the wrong model for how a finite mind relates to totality. You do not leave them. You deepen inside them. You refine your understanding. You change your horizon. You discover more of their structure without ever acquiring the godlike outside from which the whole becomes a simple object. This is not merely a technical claim. It touches something old in the human imagination. To want an outside is to want assurance that the inside can be finished conceptually. The universe, as modern cosmology describes it, may deny that comfort not out of hostility but out of its own form. There are realities that can be known in part, modeled in depth, mapped within horizons, and still never converted into scenery. The cosmos may be one of them. That is why the script, if it is faithful, must not end with mere scale. Scale is only the beginning of the awe. The deeper awe lies in discovering that the universe may exceed not just our engines, but the very category of journey through which we first tried to imagine it. The failure is not one of bravery. It is one of analogy. There is another tension worth facing. Suppose one insisted that leaving the universe means leaving our own space-time entirely, somehow crossing into a domain where the laws, geometry, or dimensional structure underlying our cosmos give way to something else. Even here, the traveler's problem remains almost unbearable. Travel, as we understand it, already presumes space-time. Motion has coordinates. Distance has metrics. Duration has clocks. To go outside space-time in any complete sense may not be like traveling through a very exotic region. It may be more like ceasing to satisfy the conditions that make travel a meaningful concept at all. This brings the story to its most austere point. The universe may not be a prison with walls. It may be the total field in which walls, roads, clocks, and positions first become coherent. Asking how long it takes to leave such a field could therefore be akin to asking what color lies beyond color, or which direction points outside direction. The sentence keeps its emotional power because human language lets it stand. Physics keeps undermining it because the underlying notions lose coherence under analysis. Yet this too has a philosophical payoff. It suggests that some of our most haunting questions are valuable precisely because they fail. They expose the hidden scaffolding of thought. By trying to leave the universe, the mind discovers what it had been assuming all along about space, boundary, and totality. The impossibility becomes revelatory. So how long would it take to leave the universe? If the phrase means to go beyond the region currently observable from Earth, then the answer is already tangled in expansion, changing horizons, and observer-dependent visibility strongly enough that no single clean timescale can satisfy it. If it means to outrun causal connection with our present cosmic neighborhood, some regions are already effectively lost in that deeper sense, not because we lacked courage, but because space-time itself has arranged the terms otherwise. If it means to depart the universe altogether, current physics offers no known method, no confirmed boundary, and perhaps no meaningful target to name. The answer then is not simply too long, it is more severe than that. Even at unimaginable velocities, even with patience beyond empires, even with technologies so advanced they render present engineering childish, the Enterprise may remain physically undefined. The traveler can go astonishingly far and still discover only deeper interiors of the same totality. The road lengthens, the geometry shifts, the horizons move, and the hoped-for outside does not appear in any form a ship can meet. And that may be the most honest and most cinematic ending of all. The impulse to leave everything behind is deeply human. Cosmology does not mock that impulse. It refines it until only its truest shape remains. You can leave the house. You can leave the world. You can leave the star. You can perhaps leave the galaxy with enough time, enough sacrifice, enough impossible grace in engineering. But the universe is not simply the next larger room. It is the whole stage on which rooms, roads, and farewells first became imaginable. The farther you travel into it, the more clearly that truth hardens. The universe may therefore remain what no human frontier ever was, not a place too remote to cross, but a reality too complete to step outside in the way the heart first hoped. That is why even the fastest conceivable journey may never become a true departure. It is also why the question remains so beautiful. It teaches us that some impossibilities are not failures of courage. They are revelations about the shape of existence itself.